Not thank you enough as Southwest business partners for joining us, spending 90 minutes of your time. We are going to try to maximize this time with topics that really matter. Your trusted partnership means the world to the Southwest family, and we've got a jam-packed agenda here today. We know that there's a feeling of optimism. It's a new year. Yesterday was a big day for our country. I know we're all following what's going on with COVID and the vaccinations, and you're all making plans to return to the skies. But there's some big questions out there. So the first 45 minutes, I've got 5 topics I want to cover with our president, Tom Nealon. How often do we get a chance to put the president of a major airline on the hot seat? Then we're going to turn it over to you and then hear what questions you have for Tom. Then we're going to pause, do a quick pivot, and then we've got an expert panel of leaders that are going to come in and talk through all the details of our MAX return to service plan. So from step to step, how are we preparing our pilots? How are we preparing our planes? And what are the resources that each of you have available? For those that I haven't had a chance to meet, my name is Dave Harvey. I have the pleasure of serving as our Vice President of Southwest Business. At the end of the day, our mission is to make it easier for you to do business with Southwest. That's what our sales team and our services team are setting out to do. So let's get right to it. I want to quickly introduce Tom Nealon. He has met many of you in person. We've done a lot of in-market events, breakfasts, dinners. He's been on individual sales calls with many of our travel managers that are out there. Such a gift to get a few minutes of his time. Tom Nealon has been with Southwest for 15 years now. He actually started in the early 2000s and came in as our CIO. This was when Southwest was only 30 years old. We're coming on the 50th anniversary here, but we needed a major technology transformation from that scrappy point-to-point to now growing as a national carrier. He successfully led that. He's been on our board of directors, and then we were able to get him to come back as our president. He also has held executive leadership positions at JCPenney, Frito, and the Feld Group. He was even inducted into the CIO Hall of Fame in 2012. We are thrilled to have you, Tom. And
Thank you, Dave.
We're going to jump right in.
Good to be here, and thanks for joining us, everybody.
So
Okay.
we've got a few topics that we know are on the minds of a lot of our audience. Mm-hmm. The first one, and I already hinted at it, this is our 50th anniversary come June. We've such a legacy, small, scrappy beginnings. Yeah. Would love, especially with everything that's going on with COVID and the industry, what does the 50th anniversary mean to you?
To me personally, oh my gosh, Dave, there's so many ways to answer that question. I guess the first thing I'd say is, the 50th anniversary may in fact be the hardest year in our history. Perhaps only surpassed by the first year in our history back in 1971. Back then we had 3 airplanes, and it was a very regulated industry, and our challenge was getting the right to fly, getting our operating certificate, and that was not a sure thing. So we had to fight there. But this year has been, just incredibly difficult. The MAX grounding, the pandemic, and so on and so forth. But in spite of all that, what it means to me is, it means a lot to me to be proud of the company I work for. It means a lot to me to be proud of the people I work with and I enjoy. And Southwest is more than just a company to me. I think that's probably the case for the vast majority of our employees. It really means something. It means something strong and dear to us. I do talk about this. You don't mind me going a little bit on this. I talk to our new employees about this. And I think it's important because I really do feel like after 50 years, it's just amazing what we've become in terms of we've never had a furlough, and we're so proud of that. And this year really tested our ability to sustain that, if you will. We've always been profitable, 48 consecutive years of profitability. And I was actually asked the question, I was being interviewed a few weeks ago, and someone, I was asked the question, so what does it feel like ending your streak, the legacy of profitability? And it was it just kind of caught me off guard, and I thought to myself, and I answered, that's not our legacy. Our legacy is our people have fought through every element of diversity or adversity that you could possibly imagine. And it's the same thing we had to do in 1971 and again in 2021. And that legacy of the warrior spirit, the Southwest fighter just making it through and driving through, that is as alive now as it was back then. So that legacy is strong. And I think we've been given a great inheritance. You know, Herb gave us a business model it was the first low-cost carrier model in the world, and it's still there. It's still working, and it's still the strongest model in the industry. And Colleen gave us an incredible culture, and you know that culture is very simple. It's based on the golden rules, you know, treating people with respect, doing the right thing, so on and so forth. And 50 years later, that's what we were founded upon, and all that's still in place, which is pretty incredible. And I think we all take tremendous pride in that. Not a pride in terms of an arrogance, but just pride in terms of Thanksgiving. That's how we feel about the company.
Everything you just mentioned is going to serve us well for the next 50.
Yeah.
So we touched on the challenges and the adversity. Clearly COVID, the last 9 or 10 months, we implemented the Southwest Promise. Take us through some of the learnings over the last 9 or 10 months, and what are we thinking about for 2021?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think that you know, the Southwest Promise, we were all figuring this out real time. Right? We didn't know what to think when this all emerged, what our responsibility was, what we could do to affect safety and health and so on and so forth. And I think that where we ended up with the Southwest Promise was really powerful and really good. And you guys all know this, it's got many elements to it. There's the HEPA air filtration, there's the masking, there's the cleaning of the aircraft, and there's multiple layers of that, which you'll hear. I'm not sure you're gonna hear about that today with Landon or not. I think we covered that in one of our last town halls. But I think the Southwest Promise was really, really well done. So I'm really proud of that. I think we've done a good job there. I think that in terms of where we are and what to expect for 2019 or for 2021 with the COVID-19 situation, you know, I think there's cause for optimism. All right, there's a reason to be optimistic. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I feel really good about where we are as a country with the vaccine. It's still pretty shocking that we got one so quickly. I'm not surprised that we are having challenges with the distribution and the execution of the shots and such. That's not a surprise to me at all. And that's going to be something that we have to accelerate and work our way through, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of energy put against that, so I'm confident that's going to happen. I think that the first quarter is going to be more of the fourth quarter, which is rough. I mean, it's not going to be a high demand environment for us, and it's not going to be a high travel environment just for people in the country, excuse me. So I think that's kind of a given. I do think, though, that as you get into the early summer months, you will begin to see an increase in travel. And I think that's certainly going to be led, as I think you guys would all agree, that's going to be led by leisure travel. You know, business travel, that's part of the reason I'm so anxious in talking with all of you, is, you know, that's less clear to me. And we look at the GBTA materials, and, you know, I'm very close to Dave and his team going through where exactly are we and what are we hearing, what are we thinking. And, you know, it feels like, you know, 60, 70% of you all feel like, you know, managed travel will begin to recover in the second, third quarters, which is good. So, you know, as soon as you guys are ready, we're ready. But I think in terms of, as a company, I think every carrier is going to recover very differently. And, you know, we all came into this in very different situations. We came in with different business models. Some are higher cost, higher service, or higher amenities. Some more dependent upon long-haul international, some more dependent upon premium class of service, some more dependent upon corporate travel. And so we all kind of come in with our own different points of emphasis within our business model and revenue streams. And we also all come in with very different positions of strength or weakness relative to balance sheet, liquidity, credit ratings, and that kind of thing. And I feel really good about how we came into this, which is going to influence dramatically how we come out of this. And, you know, we're in a position where we entered, you know, the whole pandemic environment with a very strong balance sheet. And what that means for us and why that's important to us is we had a lot of liquidity, we had access to cash, we had an investment grade credit rating, which meant we could go borrow at very, you know, low market rates and so on and so forth. So we came in with a strength there. We came in with very, very low debt. In fact, I think it was the lowest debt to equity in our history, if I'm not mistaken, which is great, which means, you know, we don't have, you know, if you will, to personalize it, we don't have a big mortgage. We don't have a, you know, a high car payment. So our fixed costs and our long-term costs were low. And we had plenty of money in the savings account and checking account to pay the bills, and we had money if we needed it. So we came in very, very strong, and that allowed us to raise capital because we are still, to this day, as you guys know, we are still burning millions of dollars every day. All right, so that is not sustainable for any carrier, Southwest included. There's not a business in the world that can burn cash every day and survive. But we are optimistic that business travel, leisure travel will recover. And I think that the first chunks to recover are going to be the core of our business, which is domestic leisure, followed by domestic business, followed by near international leisure, followed by far international leisure, and then travel, or business travel. So I think there's kind of a cascading. And I think that our core business is in the early stages of that restoration of travel. So I feel really good about where we are, but it is going to be years for the industry to recover. Just one little anecdote, and I'll stop. I know you're trying to get me to move on here, but
this is your time.
Yeah, but it is kind of interesting because if you look at what has happened over the past 12 months, the level of air service is pretty close to what we were serving, what the country had in terms of air service in the mid-1970s. Just think about that for a second. So just think about how far back we stepped in the course of 10 months. I guess 11, almost was 10 months. It's still 10 months, right? So in 10 months, we've gone back from 2020 levels of air traffic to mid-1970s. And that is a lot of aircraft that's sitting on the ground. It's a lot of pilots and a lot of crews and a lot of people that are being impacted. And it's changing the nature of the country. And so I think we're all pretty anxious to get this restoration done. So anyway, I'll stop there.
So much what you shared as part of our DNA is just being prepared. And you mentioned herb earlier. It's another herbism. In the best of times, prepare to manage in the lean times. And
it's interesting. Our CEO is Gary Kelly. He's a fantastic guy, fantastic leader. And that has always been his mantra. And I think he'd credit that to Herb. And being prepared in this industry is incredibly important because it's so volatile, right? Whether it's energy prices, all sorts of things are introduce volatility. And I think that's one of the things that really differentiates Southwest is we've always been very, very well prepared for what we don't know is going to hit us, right? So.
Well, next big topic that I know everyone's going to be interested to hear about. So a couple years ago, we pivoted on our distribution strategy for a lot of our B2B partners. And then right before the new year, we got the deal done with Sabre. And now we're focused on how do we get that across the line and make that active. Love to get your take on the Sabre news.
Well, I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, that's kind of my reaction to the Sabre news. I think it's fantastic. I think it's probably worth stepping back a little bit. I mean, that happened on the 31st of December at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, it was right within 2 hours of close of business kind of thing at the last day of the year. So, but I do want to step back. I keep digressing here, so I hope this is what you guys are looking for. But what I want to take you through is if you step back 2 years and look at where Southwest is today relative to our intent, our mission, our purpose, our energy level, our level of commitment and investment against the corporate managed travel, it is just night and day from what it had been in prior years. And it's not because we just discovered it and fell in love with it, it's because we were somewhat handcuffed historically, and it would have been almost impossible for us to get into industry standard GDS type of transactions and capabilities because of the old reservation system that we were on. Right. And it was a really great thing at one point, and it became a real hobbler of our growth. It really hobbled our ability to change and grow, as you said. So with the implementation of our new reservation system, again, it's not like we just discovered, hey, there's this corporate managed business travel. What do you think about that? We knew it was there, and we knew that was the first step to again go after was our Amadeus Res system. Then we went after trying to get Sabre. It didn't work out the first time. Didn't work out the second time, I don't think either. We ended up going with, our initial implementation was with Travelport, their 3 platforms, Amadeus. We continue to do work against our API channel, which we love, which is a really powerful channel for us. I think that we were actually early movers 10 years ago, 12 years ago with Swabiz.
20 years ago. Swabiz just turned 20.
All right, so I was actually young back then. So, but we had the Swabiz, which was pretty unique. And I think that Swabiz, as you may have known it then, until 2 years ago, wasn't much different 18 years later. Is that fair?
Yeah, we let it die on the vine a little bit.
We let it die on the vine, and so shame on us. Swabiz today is quite different, and I guess the reason I bring that up is I feel really good about where we are with the Swabiz channel, which is very effective for SME, for SME businesses. very comfortable with where we are at the API, and I'm thrilled with where we are with Amadeus and the 3 travel port platforms. Sabre is a big deal for us. It's really important that we have, we are full participants in the transactional, in the capabilities, industry standard capabilities, and that's where we are. That's an important thing for us. So, where we are in terms of implementation, again, we're 2 weeks into the year. So, we didn't have this deal until the very end of the year. So we didn't have this in our work plan, our technology work plan, or our business work plan. And it's something that we've raised to the top. But we have a lot of things at the top within our commercial portfolio. But I think this is one, and my technology team would kill me when I say this, but I think that the 2021, back half of 2021 is very reasonable. That's what we should be shooting for. This is a 75% market share channel, and that's where we want to be, and we need to be there. So that's what I'm expecting.
Well, that's great, and the feedback from many of our partners here on this call has been very positive. Many of them use Sabre to kind of power their travel programs today. And it really just provides that channel of choice. It gives you the optionality. We're agnostic. Whatever the best channel is for you to do business with Southwest, we've got an industry standard or industry leading with SWABIZ and API.
Dave, there's one thing I want to hit on Sabre, though, because I'm not sure. Actually, I've heard from you what the chatter was and what the concerns were out there, and what's the relationship with Southwest and Sabre. And I do think it's worth me kind of hitting on it a little bit. Just, there's no secret that we could not get a deal, and we want a deal, and they want a deal, but there was not a path to a deal. And when we made the announcement in July 2020, this past July, that we're going to shut down BBR, it's not because we were mad. It's not because we were picking up our ball and going home. It's because BBR just did not fit with our industry standard strategy. It was just it's like dragging an anchor around. So we decided to just shut that down. And it was not until late in December that Sabre came back and started working with you and your team. And it was important for us that we preserved the integrity of our distribution strategy, which means that we did not want full content within Sabre. So we had to get creative with them, and they had to get creative with us. It was important to us that we were absolutely industry standard in terms of how we display inventory, fares, how we do bookings, how we do settlements, so on and so forth. It had to be absolutely industry standard, so it's easy for you all. And it had to be low cost. And those are the 3 items that Southwest needed. And we didn't change our request. Those are the 3 things we asked for early on. Those are the 3 things we ended up with, and we all feel good about it. I think Sabre feels good about the deal as well.
Mutually beneficial.
But it has to be good. That's why I wanted to bring this up. So it's a hard back and forth, but at the end of the day, we are partners, and we need them to be successful. They need us to be successful, and I fully expect us to be in a long-term relationship. But the dating process was kind of odd, but we got to a good point, right? So.
Well, switching gears a bit, but no less exciting news, and network planning rolls up to your responsibility as well. So you've been saying yes a lot lately. 12 new cities, kind of a barrage in making good uses for our people in Plains. What's going on there?
Well, it's kind of fun. We've, the last couple of years, it's not like we hadn't had these ideas and these thoughts about these cities. So, Santa Barbara's, the Fresno's,
that went live today.
We got the ski destinations in Hayden and Montrose. We're really excited about those. O'Hare, Bush Intercontinental, Miami. So there's a lot. Jackson. I mean, there's a lot, right? And so it's not like we didn't have the idea. What we didn't have were the aircraft. All right. So for the last, I'd call it 4 years, we really have been in an aircraft deficit position. So we, as you guys know, we retired the 737-700 classic aircraft because we're going to replace that with the MAX 8 aircraft. So we retired all the 700s. I'm sorry, the 300s rather. I got my generations wrong. We say lots of 700s. So we retired the 300s, which is the classic, but then the MAX was grounded. So we didn't have the classics, we didn't have the MAX, so we were really short aircraft. In fact, not only were we short aircraft, we had to harvest aircraft out of the network in order to fund our expansion into Hawaii, because Hawaii takes a lot of aircraft time. So we've been really short aircraft, so our ability to open new cities has been pretty much nil. So here we are with COVID. We have literally hundreds of aircraft on the ground. We have lots of employees who want to work and want to drive new flights and new flying and that kind of thing. So that's what we're doing. It was important to us as we went to each of these cities that several things. One, it had to fit within our network. So these are not just opportunistic, we're going to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, and after COVID's over, we'll go back and reevaluate. These are markets that will stick. They are plugged into our network very, very naturally. They're markets where they are surrounded by good core customer development. So, some of the markets in California, the markets in Colorado, the markets in Houston and Chicago, those are points of strength for us. So there is a built-in Southwest customer base there. So this is just incremental. There's probably a little bit of cannibalization, but in Chicago and O'Hare, or Chicago and Houston perhaps, but very minimal. Those are different markets, the north and the south. Yeah, they are very complementary. So we feel really good about that. And the other thing that had to happen is, we needed to have really low entry costs. So if we're going to go in, it's not like we are flush in cash right now. So all the money we have is borrowed money. We've borrowed a lot of money this year. So the entry costs into the markets had to be very low, and we got a lot of help from the cities we went into. So we feel good about that. And the last thing is so the reason we did it, we had the ability to do it because we had low entry costs, we had plenty of aircraft, we had plenty of crews, but the reason we did it is because the markets that we were in, given the level of demand, we're pretty much saturated. It's going to be very hard to get any more revenue out of those markets until the COVID thing is over and demand starts to come back. But these new markets, we're not saturated there. We have zero there. So we can, generate new revenue there and cover our cost of flying and reduce our cash burn. So it fits well into our network. We have the ability to do it. It helps us with our current cash situation. It generates new revenue. So that's why we did it, and there's very likely more to come. So, Southwest, it's kind of interesting, and I am going much longer today than I usually do. Southwest is really, we're not a flamboyant company, and I kind of like that about Southwest. We are very conservative financially, which has really served us really well over 50 years. Commercially, we are very opportunistic and we are very aggressive. And I think that maintaining or establishing the right equilibrium between those two things is really important. And I think that we're doing that right now. So we are being very opportunistic. We're taking advantage of the situation. We're taking advantage of our coming in position into COVID and the strength of our balance sheet. We're taking advantage of the surplus of aircraft we have right now. And at some point, we're going to have to restore our network. So we have actually taken frequencies, depth out of our market. We're going to have to restore that back in. But we have the aircraft to do that. So, in the meantime, we've opened up 12 new markets, and they're going to be part of our long term. So.
Well, this audience has been thrilled. We don't go on a single sales call where we're not talking about Chicago O'Hare, Houston Bush, or Miami. So those are huge wins. Yeah. Time is money to a lot of these programs, so I can't wait to see those start and do really well. I'm going to throw a quick curveball around Hawaii. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of Hawaii here in March. You've spent a considerable amount of time yourself getting those cities and that market off the ground. You're close with Governor Ige. How do you think the first couple of years have gone?
I think the first year was phenomenal. Right? It was really, I was over there. In fact, you and I were on a trip together. You hadn't quite gotten there. And that we were, this was it was a 1-year anniversary. And we're going over to basically a lot of government affairs stuff, some Chamber of Commerce kind of events, and meeting our teams. We had 5 new stations on the ground, and I really wanted to meet the teams and spend some time with them. Day 2, got a call at 4 o'clock in the morning, got to get back. The COVID thing, it has really hit. When I left for Hawaii, it was interesting because, we knew it was starting to percolate, but I don't think any of us anticipated that domestic travel, literally almost overnight, would be down 92% and cancellations would be up 400-500%. Well, that was the reality of what happened. It was just like that. So I came back very quickly, but I was over there because I'm really proud of what we've done over there. Not personally, I'm really proud though of what we as a company have established within 1 year, the presence, the strength. I'm really proud of the inter-island flying we're doing. No other carrier is doing that besides Hawaiian at this point. And, we're doing it really well. And, it's just part of who we are. We're committed to being a long-term member of the Hawaiian community, and if you want to do that, you have to be in their inner island business because that is their inner island is the inner island flying is their highway system.
Right.
So we have to be there. If you really want to be part of the community, you have to do that. We want to. I'm really proud of the fact that we did not shut down any station across the entire network because of COVID, and that includes Lahui and Hilo and some of these very, very small new markets where you only have 2-3 flights a day. In fact, the flights were flying empty, but you had to fly them because that's how they move product.
First responders.
That's yeah. I mean, first responders, all sorts of stuff. So we had, actually, we didn't have to. We could have stopped and just maintained a heartbeat, one flight, but we maintained service,
right.
And I'm really proud of that. But I think we're doing great. The Hawaii business is something that our California customer base, that's a huge franchise for us. It's the strongest, where we have a 60% market share in California, intra-California traffic. And their Florida is Hawaii, right? And we've given them that, and they love it. So it's going fantastic, and a lot more to come there as well. There's a lot more to come on all this stuff. I mean, there's just so much opportunity for us, and it's so exciting. So.
Well, I've got one more topic for Tom before we're going to switch gears and take questions from all of you. I see a few are coming in, but please start getting those questions in the chat. Tom, we're going to spend a lot more time on the MAX and return to service, but would love to just hear how you're thinking about relationship with Boeing and the MAX returning to the skies.
Well, let's start with they're both not easy questions, but really good questions, and they're kind of easy questions. The relationship with Boeing. Boeing's been a great partner to Southwest since our very beginning. And, as any relationship, you have your ups and your downs, and this past year has been challenging. It's been, frustrating for all of us, I think. But they've been a great partner for us for 50 years, and their product, the 737 platform, is the best platform in the world for our mission, right? For the type network, the size network, the length of haul type network that we are flying, the point-to-point nature of it, the 737 is the best platform in the world for Southwest Airlines. So we have a lot of respect for Boeing. They have a lot of respect for us. We're a great customer. We are a really good customer, right? Not just in terms of the number of planes we fly, but we are a good customer. We're a good partner. So the relationship there is good. The MAX, obviously you can't say you were anything but frustrated with that. That's where we were. We are, well into return to service now. We're going to be returning to service in early March. I'm not sure if we've announced publicly the date. I think we have, but it's the first week or so of March. And we're excited about that. And we have 34 aircraft that we were flying before they were grounded. We had well over 90,000 cycles on those aircraft, and they were fantastic aircraft. Our pilots love them. The maintenance operations area loved it because they were so reliable. A great customer experience, 14% more fuel efficient, 40% quieter, on and on and on. It's just a great aircraft. It's gone through a lot of scrutiny, and rightly so. So at this point, how do I feel about it? I think what's more important is how does Landon Nitschke, who you're going to hear from in a few minutes, how does Bob Waltz, so Landon runs operation, or the tech operations, and Bob runs our flight ops area, pilots. And I think they both tell you that this is the most heavily scrutinized and revalidated and revalidated and retested and re-scrutinized and revalidated. Just, pick any word you want, but it's been checked and checked and checked. And there's no doubt this really is the safest airplane that's ever been built at this point. And we feel great about it. We got a long order book. We are committed to the 737 MAX 8. The MAX 7 is a smaller aircraft. We have not taken the MAX 7 yet. The MAX 8 is 175 seats. The MAX 7 is 140 to 150. I think it's 150 in our configuration. Correct. We haven't taken those yet. We think it's a great aircraft, though, and we're confident in it. We like it. Our pilots are expert in it. Our mechanics are expert in it, and we're the best operator in the world of the 737 platform, and that's where we are.
Well, excellent. We're doing hundreds of readiness flights, and I'm going to get to jump on the first my first MAX flight
That's
tomorrow.
Next week. Tomorrow, okay.
It's actually tomorrow with Mike Vandevent, our Chief Operating Officer, and Bob Waltz, who you're going to hear from in a moment. I found out late yesterday is going to be the pilot, so can't wait for that.
That'll be fun.
So let's jump into some questions. First question we're getting is around testing and how we think about COVID testing. Clearly, next Tuesday, the 26th, there's the new international requirement. So how are we thinking about that, and how are we prepared for that?
Well, first of all, the testing is just for international,
Correct.
As you guys know, whether it's Europe, Asia, Central, South, Caribbean. Central South America or Caribbean. It's not domestic, obviously. It goes into effect next the 26th. And I think we're in a pretty good position. It's a very, keep in mind, international, even when we were, pre-COVID, when we were expanding, it was only 5%, maybe 6% of our capacity of our ASMs, available seat miles. So it was a fairly modest percent of our business, and it was pretty short lengths of haul. But it was still a great piece of the product that we wanted our customers to have. But so I guess the point there is it's now probably maybe 3% of our business. But we are ready to begin testing next week. Our ground operations team knows what they need to do. Our technology team knows what they need to do. So you've got to have your negative test result. You've got to have your passport, your government passport, not a health passport, and you have to have a health attestation form. And as long as you have those three things, you have to get checked off, get your boarding pass, and you're good to go. That's it. So it's a fairly straightforward thing. I think that what would be helpful for everybody, it's really hard, and this kind of getting into a realm that is not a reality yet. But as we start to see, Hawaii as an example probably has the most stringent requirements to enter the state than any other state. Well, if you began to see a world where various states began to have different requirements, and every airline, every airport, every city, and every state are working against different standards, it can become pretty untenable. So depending upon where we are going with testing, I certainly don't see a need, or I certainly don't desire that there's any kind of domestic testing. But I think that having some level of standards that we're all working towards, to me, I don't see this as being a competitive advantage or disadvantage. If you want to travel this way, you have to have in terms of health requirements and that kind of thing. I don't see it as being competitive. I see it as being what's the simplest, safest, cleanest way for us to do this as a country, rather than having each airline make it up as they go based on what they're, right. So, but I guess that's the long answer. The short answer is we're good to go on the 26th for international travel testing.
And I think it's fair to say right now we're going to maintain our international network as planned for the spring and kind of monitor demand and go from there.
That's correct. That's correct.
Absolutely. So a good question about Sabre. You made a comment about content. You were talking about SWABIZ and our API. And if you want to throw this one over to me, you definitely can.
Let me throw this back to you.
Yeah, but I think it's great for this audience. Can we provide a little bit more clarity about what we're talking about, the content difference? I think it's also fair to say, Sabre versus the other GDSs being equivalent, parity as well. So you start and let me know if you need any help.
You correct me.
Okay.
We spend a lot of time talking about this. So where we are is anything inside of 13 days. It's full availability.
100%.
Right? So if you're booking within 13 days within any of our GDS platforms, it's 100% coverage. 14 days and out, I'd say we're probably in the mid-90%, low 90s, mid-90% fare availability. So still pretty darn high. So that's all I meant by that. So it's not 100% inside of 13 days. It is 100%, but if you're booking further out, I guarantee you our everyday low fares are going to be out there, but beyond 13 days. But that's all I intended to say there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned that SWABIZ has been in the marketplace for 20 years, our API for 10 years. Both of those direct channels do have 100%, the entire booking curve. This is very much a business to business for the business segment. Yeah. There are going to be some promotional and some marketing, non-everyday. Tom, you're spot on. Your core everyday low fares, all your want-to-get-away fares that you're looking for are going to be in GDS if that is your channel of choice. But some of the big, wow sales and $29 to Hawaii, that's not oriented for our business customers. So those types of fares aren't going to be
that's correct, yeah.
in that channel. The next question is, we talked about the testing. Any thoughts about the digital health platform, vaccinations, testing? Do you have any sense of where all that's going?
Well, that's kind of what I was alluding to in my answer is I think it's going everywhere right now. I think it's kind of just mushrooming, and you're seeing a lot of health passports, whether it's Verify or this or that, and these apps, and some have their own lab networks, some don't have lab networks that are associated with them, it's very much a wide open field right now, and that's where I think the challenge is for us. I think it's going to be really difficult for us to be working against a requirement that doesn't have a standard. So I mean, even today, I mean, you look at the test result document. I mean, heck, everyone's different. You look at the health attestation doc, they're all different. So I think it really would be helpful for there to be some sort of standard. But I'm not sure where it's going right now, other than we're all trying to figure out real time, how do we meet the letter of the law and the spirit of the law in a very, very short time horizon. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of work. I think it's an important thing. In fact, I was talking with our technology group yesterday and some of our customer experience folks the day before that. And the question is, do we need to begin to build towards a long-term solution right now? Which you may think, well, one, why would you? Or you might think, why wouldn't you? Well, why would you? There's no mandate to do that. And why wouldn't you? If you think that you may have that, wouldn't you want to start now? But in the absence of any standards or direction, how much of that would be thrown away, right? Yeah. So you're kind of in this conundrum of, I think there's something we need to be doing. I'm not sure what the direction is going to be. So I think what we need to do right now is just focus on what we do know, which is January 26th, this is what the requirement is. Mm-hmm. And if our business were, if not 4% or 2% of our business was international, but 40% of our business, I can guarantee you there'd be a lot more emphasis on that for us. But that's just not where we are. It goes back to what we came into the pandemic flying and where are we? Was our entry point, and it's a very small piece. We can take a different approach than some of the other larger legacy carriers, if you will.
Next question is a good one about partnerships. They're seeing some of our competitors are doing different types of arrangements, different partnerships, clearly American and JetBlue, just recently in the news. Any thoughts about Southwest and partnerships longer term?
No, there's a lot of interesting. So you got the JetBlue American, which is really, that's quite an unusual DOJ, DOT partnership they've been allowed to create. Then you have the Alaska American partnership, so you're starting to see the northeast corner and the northwest corner become quite a competitive little environment with that partnership and Delta in both of those markets. So it's interesting to watch. For Southwest, I think that I get asked this a lot, and I really feel like right now, now and for the foreseeable future, there's so much natural organic growth for us. I don't know what the incentive would be for us to have a partnership. Now, if we want to get into far international, I don't see us having wide bodies flying far international. That would be some sort of code share partnership. I also don't see that as being a high priority for the next 5 years, right? Just because of where we are. So I just don't think there's a need for us to have partnerships with other carriers at this point. So I think the opportunity for us is organic growth, whether it's domestic, whether it's ultimately more flying into Mexico, metropolis areas as well as beaches, flying into Canada, flying into more near international leisure. I think we can do that with our fleet type. I think we can do that with our people. And I think it's very complementary to what we do today. So I don't think we need partnerships. At some point, though, if you want long haul international, far international travel, that's going to be a partnership. I just don't see this being a priority at this point.
I know we get a lot of good feedback from our partners. Some of those business-oriented near international destinations are hot on their list. So that's one that I know that they would like to see us expand to those markets. Next question, we are going back to testing just for one more. Clearly it's on a lot of folks' minds, but it's more about what is Southwest doing to partner with clinics or other healthcare providers to be able to provide the test, and they were using Hawaii specifically as the example.
Yeah, this is starting to come up in Chicago, Midway as well. But it's changing, to be honest with you. So part of this, my poor answer may be because I'm not sure. The things I was sure of a week ago may be different now. So things are moving very, very quickly, even with, in fact, especially with Hawaii. So we've been working with the airports, Oakland in particular, several others, San Jose, on in-airport testing, which would be more for the customer who either forgot, kind of last minute, you make an appointment, you drive through the spot in the airport and you get your COVID test a day or two before you get results. We're working with, and I say we're working with, what we're really doing is referring, making our customers aware of who you have to be tested by in order to get to Hawaii. So Hawaii has a set of selected providers that they need you, that are the only qualified suppliers, or testers, if you will, test labs. So our job, I see, is not to get into the healthcare business, but to notify our customers, if you want to do it at home, here's an at-home approach with Vault. If you want to do it at clinic, here are the clinics that support the Hawaii program, whether it's Walgreens, Kaiser, CVS. If you want to do it at airport, here's what's on premise that the airport is providing at X costs, and here's the time horizon to get here before your flight. And so I really don't want us to get into the business of recommending and driving people to certain healthcare providers and test labs. But for Hawaii, that's what the requirement was. These are the only ones you can use. Right? I also don't think that we want to get into the business as an industry of verifying, validating health documents. Right? If you go back to pre-9/11, and then the day after 9/11, or probably a week or two after 9/11, when the TSA was stood up very quickly, I think we all thought that was probably temporary. Well, that's not temporary. Yeah. That's part of life. That's part of travel. And I don't know, but I would not. In fact, I would be surprised if this was not part of life afterwards as well. And I just don't think you want every airport and every airline doing it differently. I think this is more of a TSA kind of thing, where there is a governing body as opposed to competitors trying to outcompete each other. Yep. So and that's just Tom's opinion. That is not a Southwest position, by the way. That is my personal opinion, although I guess I do have some sway. But,
well, it's been clear in Oakland, so that referral that you're talking about with City Health has really helped power
City Health, that's what I was trying to think
people
of.
To from mainland California to the islands. That's been great. I have to call it, there's been a couple really neat shout outs. Go Boeing, they're the best. Another one, you don't need a partnership. Southwest takes better care of than anybody of customers. So thank you for that. One last question for you, Tom, and then if you have any other.
Make an easy one?
Well, I'm going to end with a zinger.
I'm kidding.
We've got you in the frying pan here. We might as well take advantage. So yesterday was a big day for the country. Yeah. The inauguration, Celebrate America. Clearly, there's going to be new priorities, new agenda, just anything on our mind, Southwest and actually the airline industry as we think about the new administration.
Well, I think there's several things. One is what the response to COVID is going to be, what the response to testing is going to be, I think that whole topic is something that we want to understand, and they've expressed that they're going to weigh in pretty quickly, which I think is good. Yeah. I think we're going to be real interested as an industry on the environmental side. This is a very carbon-intensive industry, and we all know we have work to do to get better. And the question is, at what rate and at what pace? And I think that's going to be constrained by the reality of the technologies that are out there today. And sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, is a big deal. It's also a very early stage, very low scale, and very expensive, but it's a big part of the future. So part of the question with the new administration is, how do we create a market where that is more affordable, there's more scalability, and there's more infrastructure to support that? We need that. I think another technique is carbon capture. I don't know as much about that one, to be honest. I've read about as much as I can find, and it seems very early stage. There's a lot of work to do there. But all these things are going to take more infrastructure and more investment than a company can make. It's going to take it's going to take the administration's help. It's going to make it a priority. So those are two things I know we're going to be looking at. I know that our regulatory affairs team, our government affairs team, has got a whole list of things that they really want to understand. I'm not sure that I can or should reveal what those are, but it's just basic things we want to understand of the new administration. So.
Well, Tom, we cannot thank you enough. I can't wait for later this year to take you back out on the road for breakfast, dinners, sales calls. Any closing thoughts for our guests that are here today?
Listen, I think when you guys are ready to travel, Southwest is, I really do feel very good about where we are, what we've done with the Southwest Promise, all that kind of stuff. I feel good about that. So when you're ready to fly, we're ready to fly you, and you guys are an important part of our future. We're making big investments in our technology and our teams and our service. And it's because of you all. And I know this is a big market for us, but it's also something I think will be helpful to you. So if I haven't met you already, I look forward to meeting you. I really do enjoy it, by the way. I love going out in the market and meeting our customers and talking to them and stuff, and you just learn a lot. So anyway, I appreciate you guys taking the time today, and I think I'll leave it at that. So thanks again.
Well, thank you, sir. You're our biggest champion, and keep getting us the resources to better serve our customers, so we can't thank you enough.